Hi, this season we're featuring artist-in-residence Daniel Bernard Roumain, and we have the opportunity to chat with him today. So Daniel, let's dive right in.
All right.
At what age did you start composing?
I started composing when I was 10 years old. I had been playing the violin since I was 5, and I remember the summer before 6th grade having this urgent need to write down the most recent musical idea. So I went home and did. Yeah.
And how did you know how to write it down?
Well, I had been taking formal violin lessons since I was 5. I had a rudimentary understanding of musical notation. Yeah. But more importantly, I was able to, I wasn't right, you know. And even then there were limitations to what I wanted to actually do. But it was the first time I wrote down a musical idea that I had, and then actually presented it to someone else to play. Her name is Vicky. She was a great violinist. I think after I gave it to Vicky, I showed it to my teacher, who then, corrected it.
Yeah. So, as you've been composing, what composers have been influential to you?
Well, for me, a composer is anyone from Bach to Beyonce. They both use the 88 keys of this piano, the same musical language, and growing up in South Florida, it was a very diverse place. So I continue to have a very broad range of artists that I consider composers. That said, I have real passions for Stravinsky and Beethoven, and at the same time Duke Ellington and Nina Simone, and at the same time for Jay-Z and Bjork. And I'm not unusual. I think there's a lot of composers my age, a little older, a little younger, quite frankly, who have what's deemed very eclectic taste.
And do you think that is something that students should aspire toward?
I think they already are. I think they may not realize it, but they probably already have very eclectic taste. I think along with the iPod and our iPads and iTunes and all of these other things that I think liberate the ear, I'm young enough to remember a Sony Walkman, and it was a conscious decision to change each CD. It was predetermined by you. And the amazing thing about the iPod first as a musical device is that it became, like John Cage, aleatoric, undetermined. You literally didn't know what was coming next. And I think that that lack of purpose in a programmed way liberates the ear. And I think for a lot of young people, it's not unusual at all for them to literally hear and see Bob Dylan, at the White House with our president and have heard his music. And at the same time, to really have this, kind of great passion for all things Lady Gaga. So I think that, young people already have very liberal ears. Our job as composers and artists and classical musicians is to just offer a different path or direction.
Yeah. So as a composer, what is a typical day for you? When do you work?
Well, I'm a composer, a violinist, small businessman, and father. And they all go together. So I'm up now at 7 a.m. because of the brilliance of Zachary Daniel Roumain. But, each day is different, actually. I get up, I get ready, I get going. And in between all of that, there's composing and playing the violin and hopefully some piano too, and a lot of emails, a lot of work on my headphones. I travel a lot, so my piano is actually 2 octaves long, usually in my lap. And some days, on the better days, I'm performing, either with an orchestra or a DJ or a dance company or something for film. And it's not a blue-collar life so much, but it is a lot of jobs.
Yeah. And
it's a lot of jobs because there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of different ways to be a creative sonic artist. And I'm fortunate that I love to collaborate across different platforms and mediums. So each day is different, but each day encompasses a lot of creative activity and at the same time, quite frankly, a lot of administrative activity.
When you do compose, do you tend to do it at the piano and at the computer?
Well, honestly, my laptop, I wish it could be a piano, but as we can see, this isn't Well, there is a portable version of this actually. I actually have a great virtual Steinway, several,
Awesome.
in different halls all around the world on my laptop, actually, truth be told. So that said, honestly, my laptop, probably like a lot of people, is my best friend. Do a lot of creative musical work on my laptop. Sometimes with a small keyboard.
Yeah.
Sometimes not, quite frankly. I've been having to do it a lot that way. I've also recently started composing a lot on my iPhone with different programs. And yeah, that's my most creative tool. I have a home in Massachusetts and a home in New York, and they both have pianos and synthesizers, and guitars and violins, of course. And when I have the luxury of being home, I of course use those instruments. But I would say in the last 10 years, the bulk of most of my symphonic work, chamber work, and vocal work have happened at 30,000 feet or so above in the air. And that's the reality of it.
So you're living above.
Well, creating in the clouds.
Creating in the
Creating in the clouds.
Good way to put it. So, what advice would you give to a young composer, as not only are they tackling all of these technologies and ways to actually write down notes, but in their formation as young musicians and thinking about creating in their own clouds? What advice would you give them?
Well, it's just right, yeah, that's a nice way to put it, creating in their own clouds. But there's so much opportunity and so much technology, and that's a wonderful thing. It could almost be overwhelming. I think it's affordable, along with all of that, supply and demand, and I think it's accessible. You don't really need a lot of money to get started. But the one thing that will remain priceless will be the ideas. And the way you cultivate those ideas is to go to live performances, is to play an actual instrument with your body, and to have conversations with other artists. Those things are uncompromisable. There's no app for that, there really isn't. And as I like to say to a lot of young artists and a lot of composers, the world needs to hear your voice. It's up to you to bring it to us. And there's real value in that struggle, and it will be a struggle, make no doubt about it. But it's a wonderful struggle, and hopefully a lifelong one. So, dreams and goals are not plans.
Yeah.
Plans support dream and goals. Dream big, set your goals, but you must have a plan, always have a plan. And there's a lot of practical guidance that I give there. But that's really the short of it. I mean, like a lot of artists, my family are not artists. And I hear from them every day how much they do not love what they do. And that is why I'm a composer. I was more afraid not to be.
Yeah, that's great. As a composer, do you ever get writer's block, composer's block, and what do you do?
I have to say, I never get writer's block. I never get composer's block, because I feel that for me, I have anything, I have too many ideas. I wish I had more time.
Sure.
An idea is one note, followed by another. And already there's great potential there in how I've added an octave, and now a rhythm, and now I'm really controlling the battle, so there's overlap. And now I've added another note, the repetition of the first note, even my voice becomes musical. And there's a form now in a tempo. And I can do this all day long. It's really just two notes, but it becomes a piece. And now, like most composers, I'm thinking not about the beginning, but about the end. Because it always has to end. But that's what I mean. There's wonderful opportunities. And I'll tell you what gets lost. What gets lost is, and I'm glad that this is going, and even that was purposeful, looking into the lens and into the frame, is that the ideas get lost all the time. I could literally do that all day long, but I wouldn't record it all day long. So thank God we're having this conversation, and there's real value in that.
Right, so when you call me up and you're like, what was that idea? You put it out on film. I got it ready to share it. Right,
You got to remember that.
That's
There's
right.
potential in that.
So we know that you're a performer and a composer. Do you ever conduct your own music or conduct other people's music? Or?
You know, I do. I'm starting to a little bit more. I've always conducted since actually high school. My high school music teacher would allow me to take over the classroom oftentimes, and that was really wonderful. And I am starting to conduct more, and I would like to conduct more. It's something that you know, it's a great responsibility.
Yeah.
So it's something that I just haven't really given enough time or attention to, particularly as a violinist.
Sure.
But yes, that's something that I look forward to doing, especially as my body of work grows and there's more opportunity, hopefully for it to be heard and for me to conduct it.
Yeah. When you work with a symphony like the New Haven Symphony or your travels around the country, around the world, and orchestras or other performing groups perform your music, do you like to sit in on rehearsals? Do you like to offer advice to the players, to the conductor? What's that dynamic like?
Well, everything is different for me. Yes, if it's a symphony concert, I like to sit in for rehearsals for the entire concert so I can understand the context of my own work. And if they want, I certainly offer a word or two. But, you know, working with dancers, modern dancers, ballet companies, independent film, video games now, electronic musicians. I'm doing a project right now with a bluegrass singer-songwriter. It's all different, and the rules of engagement are different. The way you talk with them and collaborate with them is very different. And these are wonderful challenges, and they have to do with vernacular and syntax and language. And it's really the work of a composer now in 2012, I think. It's not limited to the concert hall by any means, and that's a great and wonderful thing. It's probably kind of always been that way, quite frankly. But now we can really see how composers have very unique collaborations across all different genres and modes of expression, and that's really wonderful. So I like to be a part of it as much as I can.
That's great. And my final question for you is, what would we find on your iPod?
Well, on my iPod, on my cell phone, I guess, on my iPhone, quite frankly, you would not find my music, actually, interestingly enough, if that's interesting. You would find Bjork, you would find Palestrina right now, Akagum, a lot of isorhythmic motets. I know you do a lot of work with church music and so on, so you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I do?
Yeah.
Interesting harmonies.
Interesting harmonies and forms, absolutely. You would find Michael Jackson. You would find Mad Men, a lot of Mad Men episodes.
The soundtrack's incredible.
Well, the soundtracks and the actual episodes.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Did you see the season finale?
No, please don't tell me. Please don't tell me. I've been touring. Please don't tell me.
I won't tell you.
It's very religious to me. But no, I mean, actually, great drama for me is very inspiring. And when I'm watching Mad Men, I mean, the music in Mad Men is wonderful, but it's the moments where there isn't any music, and it's that character, the protagonist, Don Draper, when who's living a kind of in some ways a banal life that a lot of people live, but in other ways an operatic life, full of all of its intrigue and sexuality and complexities. He becomes a metaphor, you know, for so many of us, dealing with the complexities, the contrapuntal nature, if you will, of our lives. So for me, any great drama, for me as a composer, offers an opportunity for me to see something and hear something. And I actually hear music. And I'm inspired. I'm more inspired by the non-musical moments of my life than the musical ones. You know, outside this window, some man is passing by, and right away I think about his mother and his father. Does he have brothers and sisters? Is he a father to some child who does not know him? On and on and on. So that's the great thing and the curse, I think, for all of us as creative artists.
That's great. Well, Daniel will be here with us in March for our Symphony Series 5 concert. He'll be playing his Woodbox Concerto, and we look forward to seeing more of him soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.